Hello, everybody. It's very nice to meet all of y'all. Some of you I know already, right? And everything like that. But I'm really excited to talk to all of you about Pick Progress and everything like that. But before we even start, you guys set some ground rules, okay? I'm all about ground rules and stuff like that. First of all, check your phones, make sure they're on silent and everything like that. Just check, okay? And the second part is, I was in forensics. I was in speech, competing in college forensics and everything like that. And instead of like a round of applause when we have kind of the awards ceremony and stuff like that, we just do one clap, right? One clap was just one of those things that was like easy, quick. Everybody was in sync and stuff like that. So before we start, we're gonna do a one clap, okay? All right, so some activities. Are you excited? This is great. Yeah, right? All right, give me one clap. There you go, okay? Oh, okay, we're ready? One clap. Fantastic. All right. We're going to be doing some one claps as we go through this, okay? So I'm going to start off a little bit differently with thank you, okay? Because I think that's really important. So the first thing I want to say thank you to is the people that helped start with the original part of the project. Specifically, one person, Stephanie Alderman Oler. AO was the first person that I talked to about this project, and she was the person that helped me out through the entire project, and I appreciate her so much for helping me out with that. So give one clap for these people. The next group is the people that I interviewed. This project would not have happened if it wasn't for the people that I got to interview and take photos of in the first part of the project, and I'm so thankful for them. So give one clap for them. Next is all of the creatives, and we will be talking about them. It was so great to have them helping me out and contributing their artwork and all this type of stuff. Having 73 creatives doing posters that you will see later on today. It was amazing. So give it one clap for them. And then the teams, okay? So thankful for the people that helped with the poster series this past year. I'm so thankful for them spreading the word and everything like that. So give one clap for them. And then where we are now, 2024, and it's the team that helped put this gallery together, put this space together, all this type of stuff. I'm so thankful for them, and I want you to give one clap for them. Thank you so much, okay? Last but not least, these are people, really important people in my life that made me who I am. I'm thankful for them, and while they're not here, they're here in spirit, I want to give one clap for them. Okay. Now that we've gotten that all out of the way, allow me to reintroduce myself. You know, I hate introductions, I really do. Because you just don't know what to say, and maybe then it starts off and you're saying something and it's like, well, man, he's egotistical and he's just talking about himself all the time and all this type of stuff. And I hate it. So I was just thinking, I thought to myself, well, AI is a thing. It's coming up. So maybe I could use AI to kind of talk about myself, right? Share about myself. So I haven't seen this yet, okay? But this is gonna be a short introduction about who I am, and hopefully it works out. We'll see what's going on, okay? Okay, this is interesting. "2024, that's pretty cool, that's great." Well, okay, that's a spoiler a little bit because that's the title of my speech and they already know about that. So, I'm an Earth Day baby, that's true. That's all true. I don't know how they know that. That's great. K-State, I went to K-State. this is all, yeah, this is true. This is true. I did work with a nonprofit. I did teach at UMKC. Now at the Greater Kansas City Chamber of Commerce. Okay, now it's telling about my favorite television show. Okay, I'm so sorry. This is a lot of information. Okay, we gotta stop this. This has gone too far. Okay, yeah, thank you so much. This is crazy. This is crazy. I'm so sorry about that. That's a lot of information that you didn't need to know. Lost and all that type of stuff and everything. I think the biggest thing that you need to know, my name is Chandler, and I am the creator and curator of Pick Progress. It's very nice to meet y'all, and I'm really excited to talk about this. When I was thinking about this presentation, I had a couple of different names that I wanted to give it. Originally, I was going to call it Connections. But after some time of thinking about this, I was like, all right, let's change this up. I think that there's a better title for this. And so we're calling this presentation Ad Astra per Aspera, which means a lot to me, okay? And there are 6 points that I want to talk about when it comes to this project, okay? Of like what this project has meant to me and what I've learned along the way. So we're gonna learn 6 things. First, it's fun to dream. Second, I have a dream today. 3, I am the dream. 4, dreams take work. 5, dreams come true. And 6, dream realized. Okay? So let's start. It's fun to dream. It really is. Okay? I love being a creative. Even as a kid, I loved being a creative. And even going along the way of trying to figure out my creativity, you know, the world is pretty harsh, right? Like you get older and they start kind of beating the fun out of you, right? And fortunately, somewhere along the way when I was in grad school, I was like, I want to become a designer. Like my energy, I got to design, right? And so I'm mixing a few different things that I did as a kid. What a stud muffin right there, yeah. But like, I wanted to show the things that I did creative-wise when I was a kid and the things that I do now, because they're no different. Like, the energy is still there. And I think it's really important to understand that being creative is a really great thing. It's good. And for some of you, you think that, oh, I'm not a creative, or I'm not like, that's not me and anything like that. But the truth is, you were doing that when you were a kid. But then somewhere along the way, the criticism, the, class, everything like that kind of pushed it out of you. You started critiquing your stuff, right? And that's really hard. I think one of the things that's hard for me is just understanding like who I am. Like what you'll see with this gallery is like me, my brain constantly, right? And it's hard because sometimes I don't feel like I fit in. Like, when people say you're a unicorn, like it sounds great, but at the same time, you're kind of like on your own. And even when I'm around my friends who I love to death, sometimes I feel like I'm not understood, like I'm trying to connect, right? But one of the things that I've realized that's really important is that the greatest instrument that you will ever have is yourself, right? It's so great to be a human. It's so great. And one of the things that I love about being a creative is that I really want to push the boundaries of like my potential. So like I dream big. I just try to figure out how I can keep on pushing, right? Because I know what the greatest potential is in me. So it's fun to dream. But I ended up having a dream, not today, but back in 2019. So I got this amazing opportunity to go to Nairobi, Kenya. And it was an amazing trip. When I say it's amazing, and I reference not feeling comfortable in my skin, I have never felt more comfortable in my skin than when I went to Kenya. And I will tell you this, didn't know certain languages, didn't know certain things. There was a point at some part of the trip that we had an interaction with somebody, and I felt the most confident, which is the most silliest thing in the whole entire world because I'm a stranger in a different land, right? But I felt like a Superman just in that space, right? And it was an amazing trip. I got to meet some amazing individuals and beautiful people, absolutely beautiful people. I agree. I agree. I got to meet some amazing people. And the trip was really, really great. This is one of my favorite images that I got to take when I was in Kenya. And you can feel the love and the passion and all the energy that was there. And one of the things that happened, I had this interaction with one of the people there, one of the directors at the organization that I used to work for. And he was talking about the difference between America and Africa. And he said, we were at a restaurant and he was talking about it. And he said, he's like, in America, everybody is just segregated, even still to this day. And I don't mean it in the historical term. I'm talking about it from a structure. You go to a restaurant, the restaurant is built where you just have your own little space, right? And when I was in Kenya, everything was kind of opened up. We were all kind of in it together, in it. And he's like, that's the difference. And I remember traveling back and thinking to myself, that energy is what I want to bring back here, right? Is that we've been too isolated. How can we bring that back? So I had a dream. And the first thing that I had to do is become that dream, right? When it comes to any creative project or anything like that, the first person that you have to convince is yourself. It doesn't matter, right? A lot of times we start trying to talk to other people. Hey, I got this really cool idea. I want to convince you of this idea. Why don't we work together? All this type of stuff. It's nope. I got to be the first person to convince myself that this idea will work. Come hell or high water, I'm going to do it. It doesn't matter, right? But there's some type of mentalities that you kind of got to work through to get to that point, right? So when you convince yourself, you got to come with this mindset that there are no other points except for point A to point B. You see it, Martin Luther King talked about the mountaintop. You see the mountaintop, right? You don't know how you're going to get there. You just see the point. And I'm not saying that there are certain things and hills and trials and tribulations that you're going to work through, but you just know that I'm going from point A to point B. That is the goal that I have in mind, right? There's also some things that you got to realize when it comes to having a dream and being the dream and those different types of things, right? And these are the things that put the dream on the side of the road, right? So first, there's a fine line between ego and confidence. Definitely. And what I mean by that, let's say right now, we just all got up and went to a basketball court and I said, I'm going to dunk tonight. There is not enough air in these Jordans to get me to dunk. We'd be sitting there forever. And that's the ego talking, right? That's the ego talking. The confidence is I believe in this idea, right? But you got to kind of have the other parts here where, sometimes you talk to people and you're hey, I just want to get that perspective. I want to make sure that I'm on the right page. And that's when it becomes hard when you're the advisor. Some of you have been advisors. And again, it kind of goes back to the adult part where there's a fine line between counsel and criticism. Some of you, I have been quick to be nope, it's not going to work. Just shut it down. and not try to give advice of saying, hey, listen, like, I just don't think it's going to work exactly like this. I just think that you need to look at it from this perspective, right? Still having critiques, but making sure that that dream is still alive in some way, shape, or form. Again, I think that as a kid, we were so quick to just believe in it. And as we got into adults, we just had this mean world kind of perspective. So there's a fine line between counsel and criticism. And then the last part is that there's a fine line between luck and work, okay? My grandpa used to tell me, or he still tells me, he's not gone, okay? Sorry about that. He would tell me, some things don't come overnight. I had another friend, she would say, you make your own luck, right? And I'm not Marlon Brando here, right? So, you gotta work hard. What I try to do is work as hard as I possibly can to meet luck wherever it is. And I won't lie, this project that you are going to see, I'm going to talk about it, like, had luck. But I worked my butt off to try and get there, okay? So there's a fine line between those two things. Dreams take work. See? They do. And I think it's now time to talk about this project, right? You've been hearing me talk, right? Let's talk about this project. There are 3 parts to the Pick Progress project. The first part is the picks, okay? That's the idea that I had when I got back from Africa. I said, I'm going to make picks. It didn't sound as like profound like that, right? I feel like that, like, and this is off subject, but like, it feels like coming to America, like I'm going to make picks. And it's like, what the hell is he talking about? No, but I had been thinking about picks for a long time. I like had Afro combs, and I always loved Afro combs and everything like that. And I always wanted them to have phrases on them, because it was like, it'd be really cool if they had phrases on them, because then you had to stick it in the back of your head and it'd be like, leave me alone or something like that. And it's like, it'd be really cool. But no one had ever done it. So then I was like, okay, let me try and do that. So I taught myself how to 3D print and ended up making 31 combs. Now I know what you're thinking. Chandler, you do not have enough hair for 31 combs on a regular basis. You are absolutely correct. And I had to think about like, okay, so what am I gonna do with these? And that's when I started thinking to myself, how could I turn these into art pieces? So, part 2, the interviews. In the summer/fall of 2019, I reached out to over 30 different individuals and asked them, hey, would you be interested in being interviewed? I'd love to know your experience being Black in America. And also, I have these Afro combs. I'd like to have you pose with these combs, if that's possible. And luck met me, and I got over 30 people and got to have them pose with the combs. On the website, if you go to pickprogressproject.com, I did over 30 hour-long interviews, and then we transcribed them, and they're transcribed online. So that was the first part of the project. And what happened is each day starting February 2020, I'd post one of the stories each day, starting January 31st all the way to March 1st, to signify that Black History Month expands past Black History Month, okay? So that was the first part of the project, the picks and the interviews. And then the posters happened, okay? I basically will say this about this project. So when I got done at the end of February 2020, I don't know if you know what happened in March. But it was one of those things that helped check my ego, right? I had worked my butt off for almost a year on this project. And then not only two things happened. Chiefs won their first Super Bowl, and then right after that, the pandemic hit. Nobody, not even my mom talked about this project. I'm kidding. Greta loves me. She was talking about this project, okay? And it made me realize, I said, okay, like, again, you're chasing the algorithm, you're chasing all these things, attention and stuff like that. And it made me realize, okay, Chandler, what have you gained from this project? And I said, I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot about who I am as a person. And then a couple years went by, and I was fortunate to be a part of AIGA KC on the programming team, and we were talking about events. And I said, hey, like, I have this project that I've worked on. I would love to continue it. What could we do? And I was talking to a few different people, Kinsey and Gabby, and talked to them. And Gabby mentioned, she's like, we could do posters. Like, could we do posters? And I was like, yeah, let's do posters. And so it was like, let's just try and get 30 posters from different Black creatives. And I remember people telling me, again, kind of like the hesitancy or the kind of a little bit of the criticism, like, hey, like, it's okay if you don't get 30. And I just kind of looked at them like, all right, like, we'll see. Okay? So these are some of the posters. And we ended up getting not 30, but 73 posters from around the world. From the Netherlands, from the United Kingdom, from New York, from LA, from all over the place. I'm going to give you a little bit more of the secret. So the poster series is still going on. We're doing one final run. And officially, we have over 100 posters from Black artists that are featured in Pick Progress, which is pretty awesome. By the end of this month, we'll have 100. So remember that dreams take work. And I'll tell you something about dreams taking work. You will make mistakes. I made mistakes during this project. I made a huge mistake. Big mistake, huge mistake, Julia Roberts mistake. So, again, I told you that I don't know how to 3D print. Well, I learned and taught myself how to 3D print. But then in the summer of 2020, when everything was going on with the protests, I found solace in that project and Pick Progress. And I was fortunate to start a Kickstarter. And the Kickstarter was, hey, we have these Afro combs. We'd like to do a plastic version so you could actually use it in your hair. Because the original versions, I spray painted them. So like, you don't want that in your hair and everything like that. And the goal was to raise $10,000. We raised $10,000, and now it was on me to make these combs. I'll tell you what, 3D printing doesn't work with plastic molding. You got to do a whole different process, and that involves AutoCAD. So I spent a week on YouTube and taught myself how to AutoCAD just enough to make the combs. Made the order, talked to the guy. He was like, this is great. Like, this is going to work. And all of a sudden, the boxes came in. And it was one of those things where I got 4 huge boxes, and it was like reminiscent of like the Santa Claus, that scene where like if you open this door and it's like all like 3-4 boxes that are stacked up. And I'm so excited. I'm like, okay. And I opened it up and I looked down and I said, oh no. Big mistake, huge mistake. Big mistake. Huge mistake. There's a thing called centimeters. So we had to go back and reorder them because I had made a promise that it was going to be a certain size, right? And people might have taken it, like maybe people were like, hey, we all make mistakes, but like I wanted to make sure that I got what they got. So if you want one tonight, you can have one, okay? You're going to make mistakes along the way. Don't let the fear of failure keep you right where you are, okay? Remember that. Don't let the fear of failure keep you right where you are. If fear kept me right where I was, I would have never done this project. It just wouldn't have happened. And dreams wouldn't have came true, okay? Perfect timing. So this is my grandpa. And one of the things about this project that's been really, really great, and hopefully I'm not, one of the things that's been really great about this project is that I got to talk to a lot of different individuals, right? And I don't need to see a sign of hands or anything but how many times do you truly talk to a person? And what I mean by that is that there's these people that are in your life that you're connected with. And do you truly ask them questions to understand where they are? One of the things that I truly loved about this project, even though I have talked to this man multiple times, I got to ask him questions about him growing up in Arkansas and what his perspectives growing up as a black man in Arkansas was like. And I got to learn things. I got to truly learn things that I had never asked my grandpa before, right? Again, how many people do you interact on a regular basis that you don't ask questions? How many coworkers do you interact with and just say, hey, did you get that thing done? And don't ask them questions about where they're from. There is so much that you can learn from a person, right? Again, if this is the greatest instrument that you have, how do you get better? By asking questions. And I got to talk to him. One of the things that I'll tell you about this, that there's connections all over the place, and I've been so fortunate to make connections. And so, one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to pass the baton, because I don't want my perspective to be the only perspective tonight. So I have 4 friends that are going to do a short talk to you about their perspective. First is the president of AIGA KC, Khyneesha Edwards, and she's going to share her perspective. So give one clap to Khyneesha. Oh, yeah. I got you. I'll hit it.
Hello, everybody. Thank you all for being here. As Chandler said, I'm Khyneesha Edwards, president of AIGA KC, and this is my piece, We Are Divine. So when I got the phrase We Are Divine, I was inspired by my healing journey. And for anyone who is currently in therapy or has ever undergone therapy, you know that when you're taking a path toward growth and healing, processing trauma, it can come with a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, a lot of feelings of baggage. But I felt like with this piece, I wanted to depict 2 people interacting and making space to be vulnerable for one another. Because I believe that when we make space to be vulnerable for one another, we discover that we're more alike than we are different. We begin to see the divine in each other, in ourselves, and we embrace all facets of ourselves. So that's where that inspiration came from. And this is just a few examples of some recent work that I've done. Chandler asked us, what makes being a creative important to us? And since I was a little girl, all I ever wanted was to create art, always asking for art kits for Christmas. So I often reflect on each day that I literally get to do what I love for a living. And with that, the last question Chandler asked us was, why do we feel it's important to be inclusive of all perspectives? And for me, I believe that including all perspectives leads us to a more holistic experience of freedom. And I believe that freedom adds richness to our lives and encourages us to love and embrace one another. So with that, I hope that this project, and when you guys see all the posters, it encourages you to love one another and fight for freedom for all. And with that, I'll pass it on to John Marzette.
Give it one clap for John.
Yeah, wait, yeah, what's going on? I don't get no rules. What's going on here? What's going on? First of all, I could talk for forever. So whenever it's 3 minutes, just wave at me and be like, John, stop, stop, stop. So first of all, I'm going to steal your thunder. Give yourselves one clap for coming tonight. Hell yeah, hell yeah. Give yourselves another one clap for Black History Month. Awesome. Super sick, super sick. So I'm going to try to give as much value as I possibly can in the 3 minutes that I have up here. So we're going to do our best. So I'm John Marzette. I'm from Lawrence, Kansas, and I love to help people. I love the peanut wings. I love design. I love art. I love color. I love y'all. But first and foremost, let's talk about this right here. This is a Black family unit. This is what I come from. I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan. I'm from Motor City. I'm from Motown. I'm from all that good stuff. A lot of soul, a lot of good food, a lot of money, a lot of just energy in general. And this, in general, the Black family unit, these visuals have been in art, in design, in history for a long time. And they mean so many things. And I want to drill down just a little bit on what everyone else was talking about, which was perspective. I feel like the perspective of coming from this and sharing is what makes the world go round. That means Instagram. That means, again, entertainment. That means art. That means education. That means the reason that we're low-key all in here right now is because we're all kind of learning from each other. We're all doing our absolute best. For me personally, I think like even the only reason that I'm up here right now is just because there have been so many homies and different people in my life who have been like, hey, John, will you come talk at this? Will you draw this? Will you help my sister's sweater company? Will you DJ at this? And lo and behold, here I am. I feel like so many people's superpower may be hidden behind something, which is just needs to be shared. So, for example, if you have like a sweater company and you share it on Instagram, there may be somebody who is like, hey, I'm going to grab this sweater, put this on this mood board. I'm going to share this with the company that I work at. And then all of a sudden, we have these two sorts of worlds that start to blend together. And then all of a sudden, you're talking to these people that might not have never known your perspective. And this is how we get the word out. This is how we get messages out. This is how we get different people in different rooms. This is how we get people who never thought that they would be in certain situations into that certain situation, which may change your life, a company's life, a brand's perspective, your own perspective. I know I'm going a million miles an hour, but I'm just trying to give you as much value as humanly possible because that's what's worked for me. A lot of things that have changed my life is literally just drawing something cool or funny for a friend, whether that be a flyer, a poster, whether that be for an entire brand perspective or just an idea that may or may not have just come from a good conversation, meeting somebody, or even at the club when I DJ or do something like that. Speaking, I'll be DJing later, so we're going to have a good time. But that being said, like all of these sorts of things can come from moments like that where you can be like, hey, this song is cool. Where did you find it? Oh, this was actually from this person over here. And then all of a sudden you have connected another world again. Can we go to the next slide? Appreciate you. So, for example, like all of these things are from different sorts of worlds, whether that be SHIP, which is just a venue in West Bottoms, whether that be upcoming events with the Women's Soccer Stadium, whether that be for Whataburger, whether that be for Boulevard. This is beer, this is soccer, this is drinks. This is so many different worlds colliding, but I feel like the magic, the cool stuff is when we kind of share these things and when you kind of use your superpower and your perspective and you put it in someone else's world that they may not expect. So I feel like that is the coolest thing that you could ever do. What time are we at? How'd I do? Pretty good? Wonderful. All right. Thank you guys so much. Again, my name has been John Marzette. I'm going to pass it to Nikky. I just met her. She seems like a super awesome person, a super bright spirit, and we're going to keep this thing cranking. Let's go. One clap for Nikky. Let's go.
This is not fair. To go after John, really?
I got you.
Seriously, what? Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm Mönika McCormick, but I go by Nikky. And I'm reading from paper, so bear with me. But I'm a graphic designer, and I've been a graphic designer now almost 2 years. Prior to transitioning into graphic design, I spent 15 years as a cosmetologist and a salon owner. And I graduated from right here at Johnson County in 2022. So whoop, whoop to Johnson County. And I guess I should take this time to say, Kidwell, I'm so sorry. You had to deal with me for a long time. So, with that being said, thank you, Chandler. I really appreciate the fact that he has let me be a part of this celebration. And also, I was really honored to be a part of the Pick Progress project last year when I started mine. So, at the time, my design was based off equality. So, I'll explain to you a little bit about my vision. I believe that creativity should be a mirror reflecting the diverse realities of our world. And with that being said, when I set out to design my poster on equality, it wasn't just about creating something visually stunning for me at the time. It was about trying to shine a light on the racial challenges that we face daily. Think of it this way. So for those of you that are not in graphics, I used pixels to paint a picture, and so did everyone else that did this design. We used pictures to paint a picture of ideas that needed to be addressed. If we were going to create a more inclusive and equitable world, why not start with a poster? Something that is bold and unapologetic as change that we want to see in the world. So, a lot of people have asked, why leave a career in cosmetology to go into a world of design and switch my whole, and I'm a non-traditional student, so I'm not 20. I know I may look like it, but I'm a lot older. So I was sitting in the room with a lot of kids that were my kids' age, I should say. So it was a challenge. But for me, if you had to ask me, like, what was my love for design, I would have to go a little deep. Okay, so stay with me here. So I kind of envisioned it as like the Roman myth. Okay, I know this sounds deep. It's really not that deep, but hear me out. So, you know how we were told that Cupid and Psyche, the love and the soul that they had was reunited at last, right? So this is kind of how I accurately described my combination of moving from cosmetology to graphic design. I love seeing the power of transition. In my clients and in graphics as well, the ideas being brought together, people entrusting you and giving you the availability to build their desired results. So at some point along the way, my worlds merged. I had a passion for both. I had a passion for cosmetology. I also had a passion for design. I couldn't figure out where to go with both. So the difference of it was I was educated in one and I was self-taught in the other. And that's when I decided to merge the two to get to where I am today. So my decision to return back to school, like I said, as a non-traditional student, along the way, I wanted to bridge those gaps and I wanted to apply all the knowledge that I had gained from being a business owner and being a cosmetologist and now in the world of graphic design. And in that, those collaborations is where I wanted to continue to show the power of transformation. So as I close, with that being said, Chandler, one of the questions he had asked is about perspectives. And so embracing different perspectives for me was the key of unlocking the power of transformation by being open to diverse viewpoints. The openness acts as a catalyst for personal and societal growth. We're pushing boundaries, we're fostering innovations. So it's not just about seeing the world through different lenses, it's about recognizing the transformative potential in every unique perspective. And in this collaborative exchange of ideas, I think we find the seed of positive change, nurturing a culture of understanding, empathy, and continuous evolution. I feel that's what we're doing here. We're looking for a power of transformation. So, thank you. Thank you for hearing my long story. And so I will pass the mic over to Sam Myers. Thank you.
Oh, sorry about that. All right. Hello, y'all. My name is Sam Meier, Sam Yates Meier, for some of those who have met me before. I'm a multi-term lecturer at KU, and I've had the luxury of actually teaching a couple classes here at JCC. So it's kind of full circle here. And, you know, I had Kidwell too. I'm sorry. And I knew Eric in school through AIGA. I actually ended up, I was the student body president of our student AIGA group. And then Eric wrote me into joining the AIGA KC board, where I met all these lovely folks here. And I am also a senior designer at Hallmark. And then among other things, I'm in grad school studying art history, Black graphic design, and I study the French influence on the Harlem Renaissance. So I'm all around here. I love this. I'm excited to be here. And so kind of through this journey and through AIGA in 2019, I became the president of our board, the youngest first Black woman of color to be the president of the AIGA Kansas City board, a 30-year-old long organization. So seeing Khyneesha up here, let's just give one clap for Khyneesha, because this is amazing. That's incredible. And so I was in this state of life where I was so focused on my career. I was like, I'm gonna do AIGA, I'm gonna be president, I'm gonna have a job right after this, I'm gonna do all this extra stuff that I lost who I was. And so when COVID hit, it was in coincidence with some other life things that happened where I lost who I was. I lost why I like design. I lost who I was. I wasn't speaking my truth. So I, like Khyneesha, took the therapy route, and I started taking care of my mental health. I joined a few nonprofit groups that kind of really helped me find who I was. And so I'm also a yoga teacher. So I'm very spiritual. I'm very in touch with my own self. And I thought I would do a self-love body shoot where I took photos with a trusted photographer and was like, I'm comfortable in my skin for the first time in my life. This is a different body than what I remember thinking I'd be at this age. And so when I was gifted this beautiful phrase from Chandler, this is what came out of it. Young, gifted, and Black, embracing all that I am. Everything. I'm putting me on blast right now in front of all of y'all right now. This is me, yes. So I based the illustration off of a photo and then created the type around it. And so I had the pleasure of meeting Chandler. He actually interviewed me for the first iteration of Pick Progress. And the true teacher in me said, hey, can I proof those interviews for you before you post them? So that's how Chandler and I met. I was like, I'm going to proof these for you as we keep going. And the continuation started. And so I love design. I love all parts of design. This is just a labor of love project I want to shout out. It's a basketball court me and my husband got to paint with our company, Yup Design. And so I didn't answer any of Chandler's questions, but I will... I will leave you on the one note that I learned through my whole experience and why I think design is essential. And I'm going to wrap it up in a quote because I love me some quotes. It's by Maya Angelou, and it's love recognizes no barriers. It leaps fences, jumps hurdles to arrive at its destination full of hope. And whether that's design, creativity, whatever you're doing in your life, I truly believe love's going to bring you there. So thank you for inviting me, and I'm going to hand it back to our amazing host, Chandler, and let's go dance. One clap for the dance. Yeah, let's go. Thank y'all.
Give one clap to everybody. Isn't that the most teacher thing? I did not do the assignment. Oh boy. Dream realized. Sixth and final one. Thank you for being a part of this journey, right? So, some people have asked me, have I realized my dream? And that's a really broad question, right? Like, are they talking about this project? Are they talking about in life? Are they talking about being a creative or anything like that? And the answer is yes, no, maybe, so. With this project, I'm hitting the point where I'm coming to a close because I'm not a monolith. This project is not just me. I got a lot of other creative things that I'm going to do. I want to do a food blog. Any given meal, I already got the website and all that type of stuff figured out. One of these days, I'm going to do the food blog. Have I realized my dream with Pick Progress? Yes, no, maybe so. I think it's time everyone showed their poster, and they're absolutely lovely, just breathtaking. I think it's time for me to show you my poster, unless you don't want to see it. It's just gonna, like, I'm gonna click it, so it's gonna be shown. So this was originally the poster that I was going to submit. Looking at it, it's like, doesn't look like theirs. So, when you get to the gallery, take a closer look at it, because they're technically all stars, and they're all in the colors of the project. There's 6 colors, and there's only one white comb, and that's the one that I have done the personal interview, and I've done the poster. The only thing, I'm the only one that's doing that. It's the word dream. And when I was thinking about dreams, I was like, you know, they're not really like clouds. Everybody thinks of dreaming and it's like clouds, you're just up in the clouds, but those are intangible things. They're not really real, right? And so then I was thinking again, I was like, you know what? They're like stars, right? They're like constellations. And it's like you kind of start putting the pieces together to kind of get your idea together, right? When you're dreaming, it's like going from point A to point B. And once you get to point B, you go to the next point, so forth. So, if you started connecting those together, you get this. It's fun to dream. I have a dream today. I am the dream. Dreams take work. Dreams come true. Dream realized. For me, this is the blueprint of being a creative. This is the blueprint in life. This is the blueprint of just trying to figure things out, right? When I was thinking about the title of Ad Astra per Aspera, To the Stars Through Great Difficulty, like I said, originally I was going to call it Connections. And I was at we had a retreat for AIGA. And we were talking about connections and networking and different things like that. And one of the people on our board, Tim Gallis, kind of stopped and said, you know what, we use these phrases so much, networking, connections, and all this type of stuff, and it doesn't really mean anything. It's not flesh on flesh, you know? It's community. That's the biggest thing. And for me, to create a community, you have to go through the stars to connect with each other. You know, for me, I think all of us are like stars. We are. We all have something special inside of us and everything like that. And when I think of like Black History Month and trying to figure out how to like connect with each other, right? Like Black History Month is about like learning. And when we have conversations, we use the phrase DEI. And even for me, that phrase doesn't really mean anything anymore, right? It feels like it's just a checklist. It's like, well, we just need to get 3 Black people in the room. We got to get this background in the room, and we've covered it. I was fortunate at the chamber, we got a workshop, and we were talking to somebody named Dr. Nicole Price, and she talked about cultural responsiveness. And that word always stuck with me. I was like, that's it. Some of you might be asking, like, what's the secret to, like, you know, trying for us to come together, for us to connect? And I think cultural responsiveness is it. And it's not an endpoint. It's not a checklist. It's not something that you just do and you're done with it. It is a forever ending goal. So when someone asks me, is my dream realized? I have to kind of say yes, no, maybe so, because I am forever trying to actively listen. This project was created because I knocked on the universe and tried to listen to it. I got to Kenya and I tried to listen to it. I came back and I tried to listen to every single person. I go through the posters and I try to listen, and I work as hard as I possibly can to meet everyone where they are. You know? I figured that you were trying to listen to your phone call. You're good. You're good. No, I'm just giving you a hard time. I'm just joking with you. I was like, well, pick it up. You got to listen. One of the things that I said is that I think that we're all special. We're all stars. And I know that to be a fact. I promise you, I know it to be a fact. And I don't know if it's going to pull up because on the screen it's like looking black, but at least listen to what this guy who knows some things has to say. To the stars through great difficulty, huh? So one more thing that I want to do, because I like time stamping stuff. This is really important to me. It's so great to see you all, to be a part of this. And the great thing about this is that we can't turn back. This is here forever. It's great, right? And I want you guys to recognize that you all are stars. So, I know I told you to put the phone on silent, but I want you to pull out your phone real quick. And I want you to put your lights on. Put the lights on like you're at a concert right in front. And I want to remember this. So I'm going to take a photo of here. I'm going to take a photo here. And I want to take a photo here. And I'll send it to y'all, okay? But I hope that this moment reminds you forever that you are stardust. You are special. You are unique. And that we need to work together to make sure that we empower each other, right? Empower, because the energy is there, right? There's so many analogies that I could keep on going about stars. But we want to party, right? John is like, he's chomping at the bit. All right, so let me start here. Now let me take off the cap first. or it's gonna be some dark stardust right here. All right, look at you guys. Fantastic. Some amazing stars right here. Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you so much.